What's up, you guys? I'm Justin Perry, and in this video, we're going to make an advanced product retouching action in Photoshop. Alright, so this is a continuation of a series of videos about actions and about automating things in Photoshop. So there's a longer video that kind of comes before this one. Go watch that one if you want. If not, I will do a quick recap on making actions. And if you don't want to watch the recap or you know how to make actions or basic actions, skip to this point here in the video. Otherwise, here starts the recap. So actions are a way of automating our steps in Photoshop by recording the steps we take and playing those back later. So for example, if we wanted to create a new action, we would pull up our actions panel, hit the plus icon to start a new action, hit record, and then it will start recording anything that we do. If we hit stop and then we were to delete all of this out and we hit play back on this action, you'll see it'll remake all those layers and layer masks that I did before. Now, in the previous video, I talked about the importance of renaming layers, and you definitely should do that. And you should rename as you go. So, for example, you will want to, after you've recorded your action, I'll go ahead and make another one. Hit record, start recording. When you make a new layer in your action, you want to immediately, without clicking off, double click the name and rename that layer to something. So I'm going to rename this one just retouching, just so you get the idea. And you'll see here that it goes ahead and captures that we set the name of that layer. In this way, when we deselect and we select back to that layer, we can select the layers by name specifically, and there won't be any confusion in Photoshop with what layers we want to select. So again, that's a really brief recap. Go watch the other video if you want the longer version, but this is where we're going to pick off. So now the recap's over, what we're going to do now is create a pretty complex action that will select the subject of this product photograph, put it on its new layer. We're going to refine the edge. We're going to try to, I've never done this, so we're going to try to automate creating a drop shadow for it. And then we're going to create a few conditional actions that will allow us to spit out different versions of this while saving that has the drop shadow, that has the background, and that has neither. Now, before I get started, I want to correct something I said in a previous video, which was that the action cannot record brush strokes. That's not entirely true. I forgot about this feature because I never use it, but I will show it to you right now. So if we go and we start creating a new action, and I'm just going to call this brushstroke example. When we hit record, normally the action won't record any actual brushing that you do or stamping or cloning or anything like that in the action. You can turn that feature on though. If you come up to your action settings, I don't know what my mouth just did there with that sentence. If you come up to your action settings, you can click the, shoot, where did it go? Might need to stop first. Yeah, so you can't do it while recording. You need to click allow tool recording before you start recording your action, and now it will actually capture any brushing that you do. And you see how reuse brush is now getting pasted into here, and I imagine that might be the same for stamping. Yeah, so that's how you can get the action to record your stamps and your brush strokes and your erasing. If I were to delete this and then play this back now, woo, you'll see it does the brushing again. I personally cannot think of a reason why I would ever want to do this, which is why I forgot that it was even a thing. But if you can think of a reason why you'd want to, it is there, and that's how you do it. Now, I'm going to delete that out of here because that's unneeded. And we're going to get started with this action. So what we're going to do is go up and create a new action. And I got to make sure it's in the right set. I'm going to call this product selection and hit record. Now, let's think through what we want to do. We first want to select the product and we want to refine that edge, but we know we want to get the product above a white background, right? A clean white background. And ideally, we want to be able to change that background color in the future. So what we're first going to do is create that background, because then our additional product retouching stacks will go on top of that new background we've created. So with this recording, I'm going to go down and create a new solid color layer, fill that with white, hit OK. Oops. FFF, hit OK. And now we immediately rename that layer, because we always rename as we go, to, I'm going to call it solid BG for solid background. Set that. And the next thing we want to do is we need a new stamped visible version of this background in order to do our selecting and everything off of. So next, if we deselect everything and create a new layer, this will put a new layer on top of that background. And we immediately renamed this to stamped. I'm going to select my solid background layer, and we're going to hide that layer, hide current layer. Now let's come back and click on our stamped layer, and now let's do our stamp visible, which is holding Alt while coming down to merge visible in your layer panel options. And now we have that. So, you know, now that this is set up well and we got our stamped version of our background on top of a solid background that is turned off, we can now do a selection. And I'm going to use an AI tool because I want to be able to use this selection and this action on multiple images without having to change any settings. Like, that's the goal, is being able to just run this on a set of product images. So if we come up to any of our selection tools, I think maybe the object select or quick select, you see that we have this select subject button. What we're going to do is hit that first and let it run. And that's going to get a pretty decent selection of our product. Now, without clicking off of anything, let's just hop immediately into select and mask. Now, I know that the AI selection tools are just like, the edges are always a little jagged. Like, we want to just clean that up some. So I'm going to add about 5 to 8 on the smoothing, and then maybe 1 pixel of feather. And any settings that we set in here are going to persist every single time we run our action. Now, there's a toggle that we can set so that we can change these settings in the future if we want to, and I'll show you how to do that, so that, you know, you can actually get in and tweak these settings. So next, I'm going to go ahead and have the action create a new layer with a layer mask so that we don't have to do that either. So that's down here in the output to new layer with layer mask. Hit OK. So there's our new version stamped up with our selection as a mask. Again, without clicking off, I'm going to go ahead and rename this. So let's rename this product. Set that. Now, this is a good stopping point. Let's go ahead and see if we can, sorry, I just got a ping from a client. So let's go ahead and stop here and play the action and see if it works. So we take all of our layers we just made, we delete them out, come back to the top of our action, hit play, and in theory we should get a good selection, all of our layers set up, and be good to go. So it looks like everything is working perfectly, so let's keep going. So the next thing we want to do is to make our drop shadow, and we want this to be a custom drop shadow that is based around the image that we're using, and we want it to be custom to the product that's in the photo. So we're not just going to be doing a generic drop shadow here. This will be custom to this pair of pants. So the way we'll do that is, let's start by making a new action, and I'm going to call this action create shadow, and put it in the right group and hit record. Now, the first thing we'll do is we're going to base this off of that stamped layer. Remember that stamped layer we used before and put in between our product and background? That was strategic. By putting it there, we can immediately start putting these shadow groups in between our shadow and our background. So let's select our stamped layer, and we get a new select layer, stamped action state, and hold down shift while clicking the group button, which is going to make a group including the layers we have selected, which was the stamped layer that's in there. Now we're going to select stamped again, and let's duplicate that layer, and we're going to duplicate it. We can name it in the duplicate dialog here, name it shadow, and let's select our group and name this shadow group, just to keep things clean. Now we want to select our product layer, hide our product layer, select our shadow layer, then select subject on the shadow layer. And that's going to give us an outline again. And now we go to select, modify, expand. And I'm going to expand the selection by 50 pixels, which gives us a nice soft outline around the product, capturing a bit of that drop shadow that's in the original photo. Now we can go to select and mask. And we're going to want to feather this pretty significantly. For this image, I'm going to feather by around 70 pixels and output that selection as a layer mask on my shadow layer. So it should look something like that. Now, to actually make this drop shadow work, it needs to be black and white, and it needs to be multiply blend mode. So let's go ahead and set the adjustment for this layer to black and white, and set the blend mode to multiply. And now that we've done that, we have a good base for our finished product. So let's turn the recording off and turn on our solid background layer and turn on our product, and you'll kind of see what this looks like. So you'll see we have this drop shadow behind here, and because we went to multiply blend mode and black and white, we can change this background around, and it's going to give us this nice soft drop shadow behind our product, independent of whatever our background color is, which is pretty cool. I know this was a lot, but this is a perfect opportunity to test these actions and make sure they're working. Now, I noticed that there's a step I forgot at the end here. I just kind of want to set all of these layers to be visible and not visible, the ones that I want. So I'm going to go to my last step, hit record, and just kind of fix this. So let's make sure that our product layer is set to visible, and our solid background is also set to visible, and our actual background, like the OG background, is set to off. So now if we hit stop, and we were to delete everything out of this photo and run both of our actions. Let's first start with our product selection action. I'm going to hit run. This should spit out a selection of our product like we did earlier, our product, and there's our white background. Actually, what we can do is fix this as well, so that at the end of this action, the solid background layer is also turned on, because right now it's not. So I'm going to also go to the end step, hit record, and just select solid background and turn that on. And hit stop. Delete this one more time. Play our action, and that should have fixed itself. Cool, that looks perfect. So next, let's play our shadow action and make sure that that's working. Perfect. So now we have a selected product, a drop shadow made, and we can go in and tweak this background color to be whatever we want. And it, now that we've set this up once, it's going to be very easy to repeat this in the future. Now the last bit here, and the secret sauce, the thing that's going to turn this to 11, is conditionals. And that's if something, then something else. So if a layer is visible, then we do something else. If there's a background layer, then we do something else. And that's going to make this powerful, because we're going to be able to change around the layers here conditionally based on what we want, and then output different versions of this file. And that, this is going to blow your mind. So to do this example, we're going to want to make versions with the shadow, without the shadow, with the background, without the background, and then with all three. So to do that, First, we need to make two simple actions, and that's a turn on and a turn off layer action. So let's go down to the bottom here and create one new action with any layer selected. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep this solid background layer selected and turned on. So let's call this hide layer. And the only thing we're going to do is click the eye icon to hide that layer. So instead of saying hide solid background layer, it's just going to say hide layer because we didn't click anything else. And then we're going to hit stop. That's the only step in this action. Now let's make another one. And we're going to call this one show layer. And without clicking anything else, just click the eyeball and show current layer and then hit stop. So that's the first part done. Now let's make a new action, and we're going to call this one output dash with shadow. Okay, so actually we'll call this output transparent with shadow. I'm going to just add a deselect all layers step in here first. So deselect everything. Now I'm going to select my solid background layer and then add in a conditional. And the way we do that is going up to the action options panel here by hitting the little 3-line icon and then go to insert conditional and drop down the if current and say if the current layer is visible, then we're going to play an action hide layer because we don't want our solid background layer on. And if nothing else, then none. So there's that. Then we're going to select our shadow layer and play our show layer action. And that's going to make sure our shadow layer is turned on. And now we hit, and then, well, let's add one more. Let's select our background layer and insert one more conditional and say, if the background layer is visible, we want to hide that layer, and otherwise do nothing, and hit OK and hit stop. So now we should be able to, well, actually, let's add one more, one more conditional. Let's keep recording and select the stamp layer and then add one more conditional that says, if that stamped layer is visible, then we want to hide the layer. Now we can stop. So now we should be able to have any of these layers turned on and play this, and we should be able to get a version that has just our shadow and just our product on. So we could do it there. If we had this, you know, this layer turned on and we played it, it would work. If we had, you know, these turned on and we played it, it would work. If we had our shadow turned on. So, you know, this is where the conditionals get powerful. So let's make one more of these, and we want to do it for the opposite. So we want the background layer turned on, but the shadow turned off. So to do that, we're going to make one more action and call that output no shadow with background. Hit record. Now we're going to add a deselect all layers. Now select the shadow layer and add a conditional. If the shadow layer is visible, we want to hide the layer. Select our stamped layer. If the stamped layer is visible, we want to hide that layer. Click the solid background layer and we want to play our show layer action. And then we want to, again, select our background layer and add one more conditional. That's if that layer is visible, we want to play our hide layer action. And just one more to make sure our product is visible, I suppose. We can select our product layer and play our show layer action for the product as well. Okay, if you've made it this far, first of all, congratulations, because that was a lot. But this is the finale. This is where it gets good, because we are going to automate this across a folder of images all at one time. In the next video, I'm going to really dive into batching and my favorite way to do this, which is droplets. But for now, I just wanted to quickly show you what you can do with these actions once you've made them. So we're going to make a master action here that will combine these things and output just our image on a white background. And I'm going to use image processor in Bridge to do that. Now, first, what we need to do is delete everything out of here. And also, this is a great time to remind you that if you've liked what you've seen so far, please like and subscribe. I don't have many subscribers so far, so everyone helps. So we are going to delete all of our layers out of here, and we're going to go create one more action. And we're going to call this final output with background no shadow, because that's probably the easiest way to kind of demonstrate this. Now we're going to hit record, and we're just going to play these actions in sequence. So the first thing we're going to do is play our product selection action and let it record all of those steps again. Then we're going to play our create shadow action and let it record all of those steps again. And then finally, we're going to play our output no shadow with background action. And it's going to record all of those steps again. So this is what our final image will look like. We want to make a folder of images look like this. So let's hit stop here, and we can actually close this image out. And now we're going to go into Bridge. So in Bridge, I have a series of photos here. They're very similar to the image we just did with the a simple product on a white background with a slight drop shadow. So now what we're going to do is go up to Tools, to Photoshop, Image Processor. And in the Image Processor window, we're going to want to where it says select the location of save process images, we're just going to say save in same location. It's going to make a folder for us that is each one of these file types, whichever one we pick. So I'm just going to save these as a JPEG, and it is going to, well, actually, I'm going to save as a PSD so that I can show you the layers that it makes for us. If we want to resize the image here, we can. I'm not going to do that right now. And down here in Preferences, we want to click Run Action, and we're going to come down to our tutorial action that we made, and we're going to run our final output with background no shadow action and hit run. And Photoshop's going to do its thing, and it's just going to churn through all of these. And when it's done, we'll hop back into Bridge and I'll show you what it made. All right, we're back in Bridge, and we've got two folders here. I actually ran this twice. I made one version with the shadow and one without. So here's the folder without the shadow. And if we open up one of these, we can see that we get our action run, and we've got our image perfectly cut out with our white background back there ready for us to make whatever color we want. And if we go into the other folder of images, we have our action run, and we've got our images cut out perfectly with the drop shadow added that we wanted, and we can now drop these on any other color background. So you can see how this would save you a ton of time if you can make actions that are like tailored to your workflow and the specific images that you're working on and run those as much as you can. It's really going to change your game. This is really going to change the way you work with Photoshop and the way you think about using Photoshop more efficiently. So that's it for now. This is certainly long enough. Again, if you like this, I would really appreciate any subscribes from you guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Again, in the next one, we're going through more automations, batching things, droplets, running actions into other actions, and trying to do this to large folders of images quickly, renaming things, that sort of thing. So if you like that, I will link that video here whenever it's ready, and otherwise subscribe and you'll be one of the first ones to know when it's ready. So with that, I'll see you in the next one.